I love the fact that it's got the humanware color, the humanware orange color, and of course the gray as well with on the front face of the unit. But the other aspect as well for me when I first saw it, I'll be honest, I wasn't too sure because we already have some very good solution are available for Braille learning. And but when I put my hand on it and I start working with the Annie, I quickly understood that it really had its niche and its place in our product portfolio, really for beginners learning. And then basically looking at the workflow of the Braille learning progress, starting with Annie, whether you, as I mentioned, you don't know Braille, you're starting from scratch, to eventually migrate to a product like the Mountbatten Tutor, the Perkin Braillers, and then eventually, as I mentioned, some of the humanware solutions as the Braille Note Touch or the Braille Note, and then Braille displays, and of course, for me, the end of the Grail line is the Monarch. So the whole idea is to really have a customized product throughout the workflow of the Braille learning. And as I mentioned, Annie really find itself in this position. So it is designed for preschool. And when I say, once again, I hate to give either ages or what is the best time to introduce such a solution, but we're really talking about learners that needs to or are going to be learning Braille throughout their life, whether they are preschool, whether they are already in K to 1, 2, 3. Definitely Annie is the right solution. But it was designed to be a self-taught devices, very easy to use for preschooler, primary as well, school age that will need to learn the Braille functionality, the Braille system. And we mentioned, as I mentioned, it's a self-learning device in the sense that you don't need to be the TVI or any of the assistants don't need to be sitting with the students to use or learn Braille with the Annie. I'll explain to you a little bit later on in the presentation what I mean by this, but really is designed to be fully engaged for students and users, but not just Braille users. One of the things that I really liked about the device when we started showing it at conferences and shows is the fact that, of course, anyone knowing Braille or everyone learning Braille got really engaged with the simplicity of the device, but also got other sighted peers really interested in understanding what this device was all about. And because it is step by step from basic Braille to advanced Braille, we're talking about contracted Braille here, and we'll talk about some of the curriculum that comes with it. But so it really is really engaging for anyone to really put their hand on the device and really start understanding in its most easy way what Braille is all about. I've always said through my 20 somehow years with Humanware, when we're looking at a Braille note devices or even a Braille display, for someone that doesn't know Braille, when they look at this, it looks complicated because, of course, it doesn't have a screen. Very often, it looks like, okay, it is a new language to learn, and they have no clue where to start. So the Annie really makes it really simple for anyone wanting to learn Braille. So whether we have a kiddo here that's going to need to learn Braille before they go to school, or even if they're at school, it could be a device that really engages mom and dad and any sighted peers as well that will be supporting this kiddo to learn at least the basic functionality what Braille is all about. So Braille writing, Braille reading, they don't need to know to do either one of them, but really the device will show them how simple it is and what it's all about. So it really is a way to demystify that big Braille mountain that looks, oh my God, I gotta climb this mountain. I have no clue where to start. Well, Annie really makes that simple. I really like to refer to this device, especially for sighted peers, that as being very close to a leapfrog type of solution. Some of you are familiar with the leapfrog, really simple device, electronic device, depending what you want to learn, vocabulary, words, and sentences, writing, reading, and so on. Annie is designed pretty much in that same format. So when people are asking about Annie, especially sighted peers, you can definitely refer to as they're familiar with the leapfrog system and the leapfrog learning system. Excuse me. It also allows students to learn Braille in a fun way. What I mean by a fun way, most of the session, not all of them, but a lot of the session, I should say, are really designed through games. So you're basically, and that's the engagement part of the Annie. You're basically playing, kind of playing a game, but you're learning at the same time. And I'll show you. I'll give you a few examples later on as well in this presentation what I mean by that, because some of the learning session, and there's, if I remember correctly, there's over 75 different sessions that can be installed on the Annie. As I mentioned, from very early Braille literacy to more advanced, like as I said, before migrating to another teaching device such as the Perkin Brailler and the Mountbatten Learning Tutor. So it really is designed for that learning process and learning workflow as well, but in a fun way, in a gaming type of way as well. So it gets those students really engaged and interested into the different session and wanting to finish a session to go to the next one, and so on. Sorry. Who is it for? Well, the Annie is for anyone looking to learn Braille. And as I mentioned, a very simplistic way. I I mentioned earlier on as well, I don't, when people ask me when's the right time or the right age, I prefer to say students of all ages, because you never know when you're going to need to learn Braille. Of course, the earlier you start learning it, easier it will become later in life, versus the later. But it really is for any students, parent, sighted peers. I wouldn't say teachers, because the teachers are usually their part of the learning skill, but a lot of the teachers that in the schools that have already purchased Annie, the feedback we're getting is really, and I'll share some of the feedback at the end of the presentation as well, really is overwhelming in the term that what they have to say about how easy the device is, and the fact that they don't need to be physically on site to be able to work with the students. Why why the name Annie? And just so quickly here, just wanted to mention it came from from Anne Sullivan, who was a teacher that worked with Helen Keller. So Anne Sullivan has been dedicated into the learning or teaching Braille for blind and deaf children, and the manufacturer of the device has decided to give them, I guess, give the name Annie to the device based on this wonderful teacher that has made a difference in the Braille learning market. Sorry. Some of see, I'm just going a little bit too fast here. Okay, so when we're looking at Braille learning system, there are different ways to learn. I mentioned, and on my slide right now, I'm showing you different pictures of different ways to learn Braille, whether it is a Braille book, whether it's the tutor, the Mountbatten Brailler, the egg case, even the Taptillo. And I know there's a lot of other different solution out there, and most of them, some of them can be self-taught, but the way Annie really brings the session and brings the learning process, it really makes a little bit of a difference in terms of other technology or other devices or solution that are out there. So what I'm showing on the screen here is just the front face of the device. So for those of you probably don't see the slide that I'm presenting right now, front face of the unit. So I'll definitely go quickly because I don't want to overspend time on the technical side, but because there's a lot of information on our website, and I think Steve as well, and on his website has the Annie up there, and then you can definitely get all the specs. But the device itself is, I would say, probably about 8 to 9 inch in terms of width, and about the same in length, and probably about 2.5 to 3 inch in thickness. So it's a little bit slanted. So I would say it starts about 2.5 inch.
I saw a crow go into the plant, and I wanted
to
tell you.
Sorry. And if there's any question, I should have mentioned beginning, if there's any question, you can definitely raise your hand. Unfortunately, as I said, I don't see you, but Steve can definitely tell me if there's a question, or just unmute yourself and stop me so that we can have specific question on some of the section we're covering here. So as I said, the hardware part really is user-friendly. It is not too big. It definitely sits on your desk or the student's classroom desk. And on the front face, the upper left corner, you've got basically 2 6 cells of very large braille. So it's I would say twin large braille cells. Basically, it's how it's described on this graphic here, and this is really for learning. A part of the learning process of what is a braille cell, what forms an A, a B, a D, a C, and so on. In the middle, the upper right middle, there's a speaker. So of course, if there's a speaker, it means that there is auditory. And as I mentioned earlier on, it is a very easy self-learning devices. So there is auditory along the way throughout the process, the learning process. And on the upper right-hand side, you've got what we call the standard 6-cell braille display. So it is not, I would say pretty much the same size that you would find on a braille display or a braille note. So once again, it's starting with the large cells and eventually migrating to the regular cells or the regular braille cells display. Keeping in mind there's only 6 cells. This is not here to read anything. It's just to show letters. Letters can form very short words, and once they've got this graph or the sensitivity in the fingertips, and they understand and start the reading process of each letter, then, as I said, this is where we can migrate to something with more of a 18, 32, 20, 32, and so on braille display. In the middle of the device, you've got your, I wouldn't say your Perkins style keyboard, because but you've got your 6-key keyboard. On each side of it, you've got also a rounded key, which is your space bar, that will allow you to do some functionality, especially if you're writing a document. Then of course that's the space to create, but also acts as an action button in some of the different application and session. At the bottom of the unit, you will have what we call the key navigation. It looks like a big space bar, but it's more of a key navigation. This is where you access your menu, and on each side of that key, you've got a left and right arrow, allowing you basically to activate the menu, which is a pull-down menu, and then you can scroll up and down with the left and right key until you find what you're looking for. You can hit your navigation key, or you can hit the enter key as well, which is as I mentioned, the action of the round button underneath the Braille keyboard. On the side of the unit, left-hand side, you've got, of course, your plug-in power. You've got your power on and off. You've got what we call a touch sensor that can allow you to act once again as an action button for repeating the information. It can be customized as well to reset the device, restart a session, and so on. You've got an Ethernet port. So of course, you will see throughout the presentation that this device can be connected to Wi-Fi or the internet to get access to software. We'll talk a little bit about this in a few minutes. And you've got 2 USB port as well, allowing you to connect USB key devices to import, export work or session that you have saved on a USB key drive. On the right-hand side, you've got your volume adjustment and your headset plug-in. So it's as simple as that. Once again, very, very straightforward. There's nothing really fancy about the hardware part of the devices, but it is a fully connected device. And that's what, once again, makes the Annie a little bit different than other standalone, non-connected type of learning system. Part of the session. So when you power on Annie, it takes, I would say, probably about a good 15, 20 seconds, maybe the first time a little bit longer. It will look for the internet. So if you're connected through Ethernet, it will recognize that there is a connection there. Otherwise, it will tell you, it will say, welcome to Annie. There's no internet connection, which is okay, because the first time you turn it on, you haven't set any of your Wi-Fi password and username, which is okay. And it will guide you step by step on how to do so. But once you get past, and one other thing I do want to mention, you don't need to be connected to use the Annie. This is not a device that needs to be connected all the time. You can start using some of the lessons. By default, I think you get 6 or 7 lessons preloaded into the system. So that would be your first session to lesson 7. So you don't need to be connected to start using it at all. But I highly recommend finding any connectivity or connecting it basically, if you're whether you're using it at home at the school, connecting it to the internet, because you'll see that you'll get a lot more out of the usage of what Annie is all about. So part of the learning outcomes, part of the session that will be presented with Annie, as I mentioned, very early Braille literacy, such as understanding what is a Braille cell, what is a Braille keyboard, what makes the A, what makes a P, and so on. So you can see that we're really starting from the basic functionality of the Annie, but we also definitely want, through the learning process, being able to have awareness about Braille cells, Braille printing. We say Braille printing here because you could definitely, if you're creating some words, you're not going to create a document, but depending on where you are in your session, if you're in advanced session, yeah, you could probably start creating words and then sending this to an embosser to print it. But once again, with the Braille, the big Braille cells and the regular Braille cells as well, there's print awareness and understanding how to read those Braille information. Being able to master the Braille alphabet, as I mentioned, first session, this is where it all starts. I should backtrack a little bit and say the first session is all about Annie. So it really talks about what all of the different buttons on different functionality. There is a key describing mode as well that you can understand. Pressing any keys, it will tell you what those keys are. And then, as I said, it's self-taught, not self-taught, but self-explanatory in terms of when you get into the session of understanding, let's say, the keyboard. So what is key number 1 to 6, and it guides you step by step. And then you go into some, I'd say, fun game session, teaching you, okay, if I say where is key number 1, then they have to find the key until they press the right key, and you will not move on. It will tell you if you've missed, and will tell you to try again. Once you get it, then you get this chime. As I said, it really is an engaging type of system. And it is step by step. It really goes and explain how to get into the game, how the game starts, and so on. Part of these different outcomes I mentioned. So grade 1 Braille, you can go to grade 2 contracted Braille. There's reading, typing, basic functionality as well. Once again, letters makes words makes sentences. So it's a word formation understanding as well. In the more advanced session, the contraction skills. But the whole idea is really to develop the vocabulary, the spelling, and understanding how to write these different words. Part of the learning process, of course, because there's a speaker, the audio part allows you to say, okay, Braille, dot 1, and then you can hear the phonetic sound when it's an A, a B, a C, and so on. So it does provide you the audio feedback of the work the session that you're doing. And as I mentioned, always basically takes you by the hand and guides you step by step until you get to that, okay, let's play. I don't think it says let's play a game, but let's learn. Let's put in practice what we've learned. And as I said, it's true, really fun games in making sure that the student stays really engaged. So these are some of the outcomes. Some of them I haven't mentioned that's on the screen is independence reading and typing, proficiency in Braille typing as well, comprehension of work of instruction as well. So making sure that the students understand what the lesson's all about. So Annie really makes sure that you do understand by asking you sets of questions before starting to do some of the I won't say the test, but the games itself, and introducing electronic Braille and use of electronic devices as well. So as you can see, there's a variety of things that Annie brings to the table here, and it's not just learning Braille, but it's really understanding the world of Braille around this given device. One of the things, as I mentioned, that really makes Annie very different than other devices on the market, especially the one that are not connected. And we're talking about early Braille literacy learning devices here. I'm not comparing an Annie, let's say, with a note taker or a Mountbatten tutor or so on. We're really talking about Braille. Although those devices can definitely do that, of course they can do a lot more. Annie really is specifically designed for that Braille learning phase before you move on to a more advanced type of devices and learning device. So the Elios is a software that was created for the Annie, allowing you to have what we call an online companion. What is part of this online companion? Well, it's an integrated platform that allows you to really track the progress of every student's working with an Annie. And we're talking about tracking. It can be on your phone, it can be on your computer, your tablet, your PC. I mean, once you've, as I mentioned, once you've connected to Wi-Fi, it will prompt you to open up Elios and then be able to create this profile for the students that you're working with, whether it's a student or yourself. I mean, you just create the profile. So the concept behind the Ilios, it really is allowing the administrator, so whether it's a teacher, the parent, to track the progress of the learner, being able to assign different homework, and then being able to view all of these different progress that each of their learner has done. So whether you're on first session, whether you're on the, let's say, the lesson number 15, you're able to see and be able to track as well. What was the score? Do we need to redo this lesson here because my students really scored really low? Maybe maybe they didn't fully understand. So by repeating the lessons, of course, it really makes it a bit even perfect, and the teacher can, or the administrator can track that progress and make sure that the students has full comprehension from one lesson to the next before moving to the new one. So the learner, when the learner is assigned the Annie, all of the lessons, as I mentioned, it comes, if I remember correctly, comes preloaded with lesson 1 to 8. And as I mentioned, there's, if I remember correctly, I think it's 75 or 78 different lessons throughout the learning process here. And the administrator of the software, or the Annie itself, whether it's a teacher or the parent, can decide on which lesson to push to the Annie. So, and that's what's great about this is whether you have the basic one, you don't need to be connected, you're just starting, or whether you get connected to it and say, okay, lesson 1 to 8, my students or my kid already knows that. So I want to be able to push different lessons. So you can remove whatever's in the Annie and replace it with any lesson you want your students or your user to use and learn from. And that's what I like about this device, because you can control this remotely. I don't need to be with the student to work a given lesson, but I can track if he's doing his homework and if he's doing the work. That's the benefit of this Elios software. Part of the concept as well of the software. I mean, the software, it has a lot of information. I'm not going to go through all of it, but there is a dashboard, and I just love the dashboard. You can see in a glimpse all of your different users. Simply by clicking on each user, you will see all of the progress, lessons they've done, what the score they had on the lesson, and so on. And you can decide there to just basically, when you're talking with your user, your students, remotely, you can say, okay, I'm pushing some lessons to you. I want you to do lesson, let's say 8, 9, and 10, and we'll talk again on Thursday. That way is, and then you can assist being remote as well. You can see when they're working with the device, how long they work with the device. And then it was, once again, you can basically be either on the phone with the students if they need any help, or as I said, it's a self-taught device, so you can tell your students, depending on their age, of course, and maturity of the students, say, look, you do this session and we'll review those when we meet again on Thursday, and so on. But the concept is being able to track and follow the progress of each of your students using the Annie. What are some of the lesson that you will get with the Annie, or you will be able to use, or I would say the workflow, the learning workflow? Well, the first one is what we call, it starts with some games, basically. So lesson 1, as I mentioned to you, not a lesson. The first thing that comes when it starts, it will definitely take you, when you go through the menu, will take you to what is the Annie, and then do a full tour of all the different buttons, like I did earlier on in the slide when I explained a little bit of the hardware part. And it tells you each keys, what each key does, and so on. And then it gets in those what we call learning games. The first one is Whack-A-Braille. There's a Whack-A-Key. Whack-A-Braille is just a very fun, engaging game about it's telling you which on the large Braille cells, it will tell you, okay, hit cell number 2. So you got to find cell number 2, you got to push it down and so on. And of course, if you miss, it tells you, no, you've missed until you get it right. When you get it right, you get this cheering, and you just say, oh, wow, great, and so on. So there's a lot of encouraging words throughout the process of learning. But as I mentioned, it really is that easiness of learning through playing with the device itself. So English Braille typing, letter race as well. I mean, you've got Braille Key Explorer, English Braille grade 1. These are by default the what you'll get with the Annie when you get it. And then after that, as I said, part of the Elio software will allow you to say, okay, I want to be able to push more session to it or replace some of the session. And then you decide what are the lessons you want each of the users to do. So whether it's vocabulary builder, word builder, word recognition, and so on, phonetic. Of course, the phonetic learners, I love that, the fact that everything has an audio echo as you're using the device, so you can hear what you're doing, knowing, okay, I made a mistake, so let's go back and then fix the mistake before moving on to the next session. This is by default, as I mentioned, what you'll get with the Annie before getting connected to the Helios portal. Some of the a little bit more advanced, you've got a complete English Braille 2, and you've got a runtime, it's about 700 hours. So as I mentioned, this can be done over a period of time. It doesn't necessarily need to be done once over a year. It could be extended over a 2-year period, depending on the age of your students, depending on the age they're starting, the grade they're starting as well. But definitely could be something pre-K, something that mom and dad can use at home before the kiddo gets to school, and then it can continue in the school the Braille learning process with the Annie until they're ready to move on to the next technology. There's a bunch of different games as well at the end of the Annie that you can access at any given time. So that's part of the menu. So the menu is designed to have for you to build some of the session, but there's also at the end of the menu, there is some games that are built in and always there, so you can't remove those. Of course, the manufacturer with Tinkerbell Lab are going to be adding and pushing more session, more lessons, and more fun games as well to keep the device as engaging as possible for the users. The Helios is that portal that I mentioned. So that's the software that comes with the Annie when you purchase the Annie. So you definitely you need to create an account. But once the account is created, then as I mentioned, you've got access to, let's say you're a TVI, you're a mom, you've got 2-3 Annies with students. So you'll be able to track each one separately through the Helios portal. You don't need to have 3 different portals. It's all built into one portal. So you're just basically clicking on the user, finding your user in the home menu, and then you decide on which students that you're going to be tracking. And as I said, you get access to all of the activities that they've done, and be able to visualize this as well, being able to print reports, especially when it's time for IEP in the education environment. So you can print those different dashboard, allowing you to build your IEP for the purpose of the learning process, and maybe once again being able to show the progress the students are doing with the different technology they're using or the school have purchased for them. So what are those different dashboard? We did talk a little bit about the dashboards itself when we talked about the Helios portal, but these dashboards are really designed, first of all, to track the progress, be able to schedule some homeworks, create content. As I mentioned, there's a lot of session that can be pushed to it, to be able to visualize the different progress and of course the performance of each students, being able to generate a report, whether it is just on your computer, be able to attach it to an email, or even print the dashboard in terms of progress for each student. And of course, being able to also compare results in terms of not necessarily comparing with other students, but being able to compare to the learning speed or learning process of each individual students as well. So the Ilios itself, definitely need to be you need to have what we call an admin administrator. So in this cool environment, I'm thinking the TVI would be this admin. So it gives them access to create the account, enter the Annie serial number, and then from there being able to have access to all of the different dashboard that I just mentioned: tracking, scheduling, visualizing, generating, and comparing as well. So each Annie as one user. That's something that I want to be specific, because we get a lot of questions. Say, can I put more than one students on in one Annie? No, because once again, the way it's designed to track the progress of each student. So it is not designed to have multiple user on the dashboard or the portal itself. We can have multiple Annie with users on each of those Annies and visualize it, but we cannot have multiple users on one device and being able to visualize their progress, unfortunately. What is, of course, that's probably the question that people are asking, what is the price point? When we introduced Annie, about a little bit less than a year ago, we had different option when it came to Annie. The Ilios portal is a subscription software, or say software portal that is part of the price. And when we introduced it, basically it came with 1 year subscription, and you had the option of adding either 2 years, a second year, or even a third year. So what we decided to do to minimize minimize, sorry, the the confusion, we decided to basically now offer Annie with a 3-year subscription to Ilios, which is that portal that we just explained. And the price point for this with the 3-year subscription is $2,895. So the price remained pretty much the same. I think originally with the 1-year subscription, it was $25.95 or something like that. So we basically just repackaged this with a 3-year, and making sure that, once again, if you get a students, I would say 3 years, over a 3-year period, there's a good chance most students will probably be done with the Annie. And what's great about this is if you have a students that is starting with the Annie, and that's after a year or a year and a half, they say, okay, they're speed learner. They've surpassed the Annie. Annie is not enough for them. They need more challenges. They need to move on to the next solution. Then you can just simply remove that students from the Annie and put a brand new one on it, and you still have a year and a half of subscription to use with the Annie. At the end of the 3 years, it doesn't mean the Annie is not going to stop working. You can still work, and we'll definitely have options to renew. And this is what we're looking at right now. Are we renewing at a 1-year process, or just putting it 2 year, another block of 3 years? We haven't decided yet. As I mentioned, we're in not even the first year of introduction to the device. So it gives us plenty of time to decide what is the best package to offer when users are going to, when users are going to get at the end of the 3rd year subscription. So some of the, I just put here on the slide a couple, I'm not going to read all of them, but just basically some of the feedback we got from users, from Annie's users over the last, I think it's 10 to 11 months now, that's been on the marketplace. And the one I really like is the fact, once again, is the one that says that it really gets the kiddos really engaged, and not looking at, I've got to do homework, I got to learn Braille, so that's a homework, and more like, hey, we've had a good day in school, so let's have a little bit of fun here and bring out the Annie and then play some games. But throughout those games, they're actually learning their Braille skills, Braille format, and so on. And that's, once again, getting them focused on doing the task, and for them to say, hey, we're having fun, we're playing. And for the mom, dad, or even the teacher, they're saying, well, they're learning at the same time. The fact that it's got auditory as well, the audio feedback really makes it interesting. I'll be honest with you, when you turn it on for the first time, for those of you who've had the chance to see the Annie in action, it is great because it's loaded with information. But of course, if let's say I'm a teacher and I'm in my 6 month using the Annie talks a lot because she provides a lot of information. Don't worry, there's ways to bypass this really quickly with the press of two keys. It's very well explained in the user manual, but there's ways to just bypass all of the introductory information. And if we think Annie speaks a little bit too much, we can simply skip some of the instruction, especially if it's something that we're doing over and over with the students because we want them to repeat more than once. Then we can just simply bypass some of the instructions so that we can go straight to the lesson and really work in doing the lessons as well. Kind of support can you expect with Annie? Well, there's a lot of marketing material already available out there. There's how-to YouTube videos that you can get access to. So you can go on YouTube directly. You can type either Humanware Annie or you can type Annie Braille Learning System. So that will take you to either the Humanware website. There's some YouTube videos that have been done by users as well. There's some on the manufacturer is called Tinkerbell Lab. So there's some of them over there as well, whether it is how to use Annie or even some of the sessions that explains how to do some of these sessions. There is a lot of information and marketing material available for that. The user manual, as I mentioned, is very well done. It's step by step. In my book, they basically, I mentioned that Annie, when you turn it on, gives you a lot of information. I think Tinkerbell Lab basically did their user manual very similarly as well. There's a lot of pictures and once again, step by step on how to access the lesson, how to access the menus, the games, how to bypass or to silence Annie if we feel she talks too much and so on. There's going to be a series of workshops as well. Just be on the lookout. We'll definitely be doing some workshops when I go out west with my Braille specialist. Whether we do workshops on other Braille devices, I always have Annie with me, and we always talk about these. And we're definitely going to be doing some Annie workshop as well for those of you who are interested. So you can definitely talk to Steve, find out when and where we're going to be coming, and definitely register for those. There's the Humanware support page. If you go on our website, there is a support page. There's a support page, but also the Annie, the web page on Annie as well that provides a lot of information. We have a very very good tech support team as well that has been fully trained. So if you call, you've got a question when you're using the Annie, you'll actually be talking to someone that has had their hands-on experience on the device and will be able to support you. I know that the tech support at Kinesis Technology with Steve and Ryan can definitely help you as well, more locally. But once again, we all work together to bring you the best service and the best support as well. I did mention at the beginning of the session that there is also a loan program that we make available. I don't have tons of Annie devices. I think I've got 5 of them. So let Steve know because I definitely work with Steve to make sure that we have units available. Of course, it's in high demand. Back to school right now, we're starting to see a lot of demand for the Annie, but just provide your name, say you'd like to trial it, even if it's not, if it's for you just to understand what the device is all about. If you're in a position to make recommendation to users and you want to know more about this, then definitely email or call Steve. Put your name. We'll put your name on the list. Let you know when a device will become available, and we can schedule this loan with you. The whole idea of the loan is, of course, for you to evaluate the device, but also to use if you're in a position that you want to use it with a student, see how not a student but a user how they react to it. That's the whole idea behind this. Before you spend the money, I usually give about a week and a half to 2 week trial. We have full support there as well, whether it's through Steve Ryan, myself, and Rachel, my Braille specialist. We will follow with you, making sure you receive the device, look at, I would say, the out-of-box experience as well, getting you started, and usually follow up about in a week after you've had the device to find out if you have any questions, and then at the end of the second week to pick up the device. Once again, the whole idea here is for you to evaluate the device, understand how it works, and if you want to use it with the students, even better, if you're in that position, working with students, so that you'll know if the students is ready for this type of device. But as I mentioned, it's a very easy to use, very self-explanatory devices as you turn it on and start doing some of the session. That kind of wrap up my presentation here. So I kind of open up to question and Q&A here. If you have any questions, nobody raised their hand. So, but if you have any question on anything related to the device, some of the application, distribution, and so on, by all means, please let me know, and we'll definitely have the next 10 minutes to answer those. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourselves and yeah, fire away with any questions you have. I'm hearing a resounding silence.
No,
That
I
means you
always
covered
say,
everything perfectly,
yeah, I
Michelle.
always say it's either I covered everything, or I was thorough with this, or I put everybody to sleep. There's always those two.
I'll ask you a quick question then,
There you go, Ryan.
because I don't know the answer to this. Is this an English-only device?
Yes. Right now, yes, it is only in English. They are definitely working to add more language module in it, but right now it's only English.
Okay.
That's a good question. I didn't cover that. And it is British. I could say it is. If I remember correctly, now you got the option of a male and female voice. Originally, it was only a female voice, which was, I always called it the Annie voice. But now, for people who prefers to have a male voice, there is a male voice module that can be installed. But once again, it's still English. There's no other language component yet.
Rohit has just typed in, will there be a carrying case with Annie?
The Annie itself, there's no carrying case per se. I mean, the box it comes into can actually act as a carry case, because it's got foam, it's got compartment to put the Annie in it, and it's housed in a foam environment. So, and then when you close the lid, but I would say that's kind of almost the size of a small attaché case. So it's not something that can be put into a backpack. In terms of just a case that fits the Annie in it, right now we're talking with the manufacturer, but we don't have a solution for this yet. Oh, I see there's a question in the chat. There'd be a carry case.
That was Rohit's question. Yeah.
Okay. There we go. And as I said, guys, I mean, any other question, anything you want, if you read a little bit more on the Human Aware website or Steve's website, and you've got questions, by all means, you can address them to Steve, you can address them to myself. And as I mentioned, if you want to trial a device, make sure you let Steve know, and we'll work in making sure that you get a device as quickly as possible, so that you can learn more about this device. Oh, good afternoon, Barb. Good morning. Is it still morning? It's still morning.
Hello.
Did you have a question on Annie?
No.
You've seen the Annie a few times already. I know that.
That's right.
Good. Well, guys, if there's no other questions, I will give you 5 minutes to this hour. I really thank you for joining us. And as I mentioned, don't be a stranger. Reach out to us for any question on this beautiful learning system.
And if anybody missed the presentation, I will be posting it to our YouTube channel right after this wraps up.
Great. Well, everyone, have a great day, great afternoon, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.